How do everybody? Now, I'm sure all of you are fully aware of last night's absolutely shocking, spontaneous outburst of cultural enrichment, which has happened in Clapham, London. This has been an attack that has left at least 9 people requiring medical treatment. Some of them have been injured trying to give assistance to the victims of the attack, and there's obviously been the actual main victims themselves. Horrific, horrific stuff. I'll get straight to the point, and this has been an attack of various methods. The main incident that has been reported has been with a caustic substance, which has been getting generally reported as being an acid, although to my understanding it was actually an alkali substance that has been used. Although from the victim's point of view, let's be honest, they really aren't going to care about what's been sprayed in the faces. It's going to burn you all the same, no matter what. Although I do believe alkaline substances in general are easier to get hold of, which raises the probability of it being an alkali substance as opposed to an acid. More than likely, it's going to be some sort of strong drain cleaning fluid, I would imagine, or possibly an oven cleaner. Now, unfortunately, with this type of barbaric attack, the name of the man has been released. Now, this is going to surprise nobody who's watching this, that he's called Abdul Shokoor Ezedi. A few people might say, well, why would that? Why would you expect his name to be that? But unfortunately, as we see with many types of attacks, where you hear things like, I don't know, paranoid schizophrenia, people with that tend to end up being of an Afro-Caribbean heritage. And with these sorts of attacks where caustic substances have been sprayed in people's faces, unfortunately, the attackers do end up tending to be of a Middle Eastern persuasion, and specifically of the practices of the faith of Islam as well. They're very rarely Catholic or Eastern Orthodox or Jewish from those sorts of regions. So it is an unfortunate thing that does tend to be people of the faith of Islam and usually stricter adherence to it. But not only has this scumbag used a chemical to attack someone, he has also physically attacked a 3-year-old girl. Now, this has been reported by an eyewitness who chased after Abdul, and it has been said that Abdul is said to have dragged this girl from out of a car, physically picked the girl up over his head as high as he can, and then slammed her down onto the floor as hard as he can, not once but twice. That is absolute barbarism. And with the behaviour of that alone, I do believe that this individual needs a very swift appointment with the gallows. And if anybody opposes me on that topic, I'm afraid you're an incredibly weak-willed individual and you're part of the problem for not wanting to execute these individuals. That's my personal opinion, and I stand by it. There is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be executing this man or people like him. I mean, purely this level of barbarism, it just can't be tolerated. And it cannot be forgiven either. You know, you don't. It's not like coming home and finding somebody in bed with your partner, and then you go off your head, grab a knife, and stick the person. That to a certain degree can be forgiven after a certain amount of time, and the person's reflected on it. That's what used to be called a crime of passion. This is just barbaric. This is just absolutely sickening. It's like with the guys who cut off Lee Rigby's head. You just cannot forgive that type of behaviour. It's just you've gone beyond an acceptable line in the sand. And although you could say, well, nobody's been killed in this attack, it's not the fact that somebody's been killed against my hypothetical incident. It's the motivation behind it and the reasoning behind it. And I do believe that this. I would not want somebody who comes home in the scenario that I created. The hypothetical, I wouldn't necessarily want that person to be executed, although I would want them to spend a long time in prison for what they've done, because again, it is terrible and they've destroyed people's lives. It's not just the victim, it's the wider families as well. But this individual, this is just absolutely sickening, absolutely sick to the stomach. But I do have a particular hatred of people who do hurt children and who do hurt in very old people as well. They're just the worst sorts of human beings, in my personal opinion. But I also think as well that this sort of incident is a great example of why law-abiding citizens absolutely must have the right to have firearms for self-defence. Because this lady who's had this substance sprayed in her face, how can you expect her to be able to defend herself when if somebody's walking up to you with a spray bottle or with a cup with a liquid inside it to throw in your face? How can you defend yourself from that? Well, I'll tell you, you can't. All you can do really is run away. Now, I don't know about you, I can't run. But I literally can run, but I cannot run as in fast. I just can't do it. I can run long distance. I've run a marathon before, as an example, in Q8. But I am not a sprinter, so for me, running away isn't necessarily an option. And ladies, on average, are a lot slower than men. Unfortunately, ladies who may be quite strong in the feminist persuasion, there are actually measurable differences between men and women. And men, on average, do run faster than women and are stronger than women on average. Unfortunately for ladies, that is just a fact of biology, I'm afraid. But not only would this lady hypothetically have been able to have defended herself, though, if people had access to firearms. Even if the lady herself hadn't, we're talking about I think up to 6 other members of the public were involved. One man did try chasing after this individual after witnessing the young child being slammed on the floor. Now, that individual himself or one of the other witnesses could themselves have hypothetically have had access to a firearm and could have shot this man whilst he was trying to run away. And by the way, I would support somebody being shot from running away from such a vicious and barbaric scene as that. I wouldn't care if he got shot in the back. I would still see that as being a form of extended self-defense and stopping that an absolute savage from being able to escape the scene. I would be okay with that being legal and lawful. But also, for this very brave individual as well who chased after this sicko, I really do hope that he gets sufficient support, because, and I will link his interview in below, it's quite harrowing what he describes and not only what he saw, but the sounds as well that come with such an attack. I do not envy this man at all, and hats off to the individual, for getting himself involved. Incredibly brave, incredibly brave. That he could have had liquid sprayed in his eyes as well, but he's definitely, this is going to haunt him for a long time. What he's seen and heard, he may well, maybe not in the immediate few days. He's probably going to be in shock at the moment without realizing it. But as the days, weeks, months, even years come, these thoughts are going to creep into his head, and he's going to have a lot of deep trauma inside him, and he may feel like a failure for not actually catching this man as well, which he hasn't failed at all. But that's easy for us to say that to him. It will may be very hard for him to accept that as a fact. Also, the young girl herself, and I believe a sister who was in the car, who was older, who's witnessed this. Absolutely terrible to witness that. But I do hope that this young girl who has been thrown on the floor, I do hope that she's too young to remember this, because this is the sort of thing that could end up destroying the rest of your life. She may well have crippling injuries, lifelong injuries from being slammed on the floor so hard as well. I do wish her a speedy recovery, and I hope that she isn't traumatised. Same with her older sister. Hopefully she's at an age where she's able to at least compartmentalize it and accept it as just that she's young enough and that this is just a really terrible thing that's happened to her, but she can at least move along with her life. Not for me to say. I have doubts on that, though, unfortunately for her. And the mother who's had been sprayed in her eyes, and she was screaming, "My eyes, my eyes!" So this has been sprayed in her face, into her eyes. I wish her all the best in recovery. I hope that the doctors are able to save her eyesight, and I hope that they're able to minimise the scarring to an acceptable level, because she's going to have terrible burns to her skin from this. And I hope, even if not for herself, but for her children, I do hope that she's able to find the strength, either somewhere deep inside or in a belief in God, if she has that, and I hope she does, that may definitely help her to get through this. I'd really hope that she can find some way of getting over this, like I say, if not for herself, then definitely for her children, and to give the leadership and the love and the caring that her children are definitely going to need to get over this. I'm going to leave this video here. This is quite... talking about kids like this, it really does upset me, and it really does drain me emotionally. I really don't like it, so I'm going to cut the video off here quite a little bit earlier than what I initially wanted to, but it's just, I find this very personally upsetting for myself. It's not nice. But if you found that informative or insightful, please do like, subscribe, put a comment below. I like reading people's comments, and I do like to reply to what people say. Even if you don't agree with me, I'm not so stuck in my points of view that I can't, if you give me a compelling enough argument, that I can't change my point of view. I'm going to leave it at that. I'll put some links down below for you, especially the interview with the gentleman who witnessed it. Please do watch that if you've got the stomach for it. Absolutely harrowing stuff, but incredibly brave individual. Take care. Goodbye.